Hello everyone, welcome back. I hope everybody is safe and sound. You checked out the first four episodes of the Erasmus Mundus series. Most importantly, listen into all the tips and tricks provided by the current Erasmus Mundus students pursuing their masters in Europe across various fields. This video is very much focusing on information science and engineering. So those of you who are student and also graduates in this subject, please do check it out. I'll be talking with Aindita Debnat about her successful journey on how she went on to win the prestigious Erasmus Mundus scholarship to do her masters in electrical vehicle propulsion and control. So we'll be talking about 10 key aspects which led to her success. So stay tuned. Very first question, how did you get to know about Erasmus Mundus?
Okay, so I had planned to come for my master's in 2020 intake, and initially I was looking for colleges in Germany because I wanted to pursue in my master's in the field of automobiles, and Germany has a good educational and professional background. So I was searching, and then a friend of mine told me about Erasmus programs, and I started looking into that. Got to know about the great scholarship they have, and then he forwarded me this link for EPICO, that is the course that I'm pursuing, which is Electric Vehicles and Propulsion Systems. And it was exactly what I wanted to do. So I got lucky there and I found the exact course that I wanted. I applied for that, and the scholarship, the only criteria for applying for the scholarship was a particular deadline that was given. You to apply before that and you'll be considered for the scholarship. And because this course matched with exactly what I wanted, I didn't apply for any other engineering Erasmus Mundus course. So yeah, mostly that friend of mine introduced me to the world of Erasmus, and then yeah, I applied and got next and got it.
That's cool. And what about the application process? What was it like?
But the application process was pretty straightforward. Everything was online. You had to give your CV, you had to give letter of recommendations, but not directly. They asked me email IDs of your referees, so you had to give that, a statement of purpose and transcripts and the degree certificate, and also your English language score. It could either be TOEFL or IELTS, and GRE was an optional requirement. So these were the basic things.
And what specific tips you would give to students, especially in your case, it was the very first time an Erasmus Mundus course was launched in this topic. So what are the main tips for CV, SOP and letter of reference?
Okay, it's not a tip, it's just basic thing that I have learned from my experience, is that have good research into what course you want to go in, which college, what are the deadlines, what are the requirements that they need, and have it well planned. Don't push these things to the end. If there is a scholarship, usually what happens is there are a lot of scholarships and we don't really know about them, or we get to know about them really late after the deadline is over and blah blah. But you need to plan properly well beforehand, so that you can make up for the time wherein you have to go to the colleges to get your transcripts. You need time to write your CV. You need to go to your professors or your colleagues at work for your letter of recommendations, and statement of purpose also takes a lot of time to write and formulate and review and blah blah blah. So just plan all your activities well in advance, so that later, if there is a hiccup here or there, you can still cope up and get it done on time. Because I've met a few people who are brilliant academically, but they say that we couldn't apply for the scholarship because we missed the deadline. And that's the most unfortunate reason that you can have for missing something so great. So plan well in advance, have good research, because if you begin your work well, it's half done. Another thing is have a good supportive community of it could be students who are applying along with you. It could be friends who can help you out, colleagues from work, professors, and have like continuous communication with them in terms of reviewing your SOP or getting ideas as to how can you link your skills to the course's requirements, so on and so forth. So a strong community will always help you in being motivated continuously, because if you're working towards one thing, it sometimes happens that you get too unidirectional and you might miss really good points, which might be really simple. So a good community will help you in getting these things on track, and it will really motivate you to do well. So research, planning, and good community. These are really basic things, and probably all of you already know about it. But I feel it's really easy to do and probably work the best.
And how critical is the CGPA, like the grades? Are they the most important thing, or actually they look for overall profile with regards to Erasmus Mundus scholarship?
Yeah, well, CGPA is, I won't say it is nothing. It is extremely important, but it's not the only thing, like you told. They look at the overall profile. Like you might have an average CGPA and you might have a great project which relates to the course, and you would be selected. Like there is a student in our course who has done his bachelor's in chemical engineering, and it's not related to electronics or mechanical, but he had a bachelor thesis based on electric vehicle battery systems, batteries, and then he was taken because his project was really interesting and it really linked with what the course wanted to achieve by through their students, and that way he was selected. So don't concentrate, like you don't have to think that, oh, I have a low CGPA, I might not get it. It's not like that. Try, link whatever professional background you have to the course, whatever bachelor thesis or project you might have done to the course, and they will look at the whole package and not just like one thing. So it's not extremely crucial, but nevertheless CGPA is CGPA. So having a good one always helps, but it's not the thing you need. So it's fine.
And did your course have an interview for the selection?
No. This was the first intake for EP for 2020, so we did not have any intake for our selection.
And how was the visa process in your case? Was it straightforward? Were there any challenges or barriers?
Well, for us, other than COVID, there was no challenge or barrier. Because I was applying for France, before you go to VFS for visa, you need to have a no objection certificate from Campus France. So if you know that you're going to France, start your process well in advance, because Campus France will take around a month or so to clarify everything. And once you get that no objection certificate, only then you can apply to the embassy, to VFS. But once you have a no objection, things are pretty smooth. You'll be given a list of documents, your passport, your air tickets, accommodation, and basic documents, financial statements, and all. But after that, it's a smooth ride. As long as your documents are fine, you'll be good. Because of COVID, it did take a longer time for us to get our visa, but that's just this year. So I hope it's not a problem next year. Yeah.
And with regards to the scholarship, I've heard that it's a very, very good scholarship. So what does the scholarship consist of, and what are the components of scholarship?
Mm-hmm. So the scholarship takes care of the entire 2-year tuition fee, and it takes care of your complete insurance. So these are the two big things that it takes care of. They give 6,000 euros for your travel for the 2 years from India to the country, to other countries, and then back, hopefully. That's 6,000 euros. They give 1,000 as their initial cost for settling in and all that. And per month, they give 1,000 euros as your subsistence cost for accommodation, rent, daily stuff, and all that. But all this amount is given to you only after you come home. So a lot of people think that they'll be giving us money before we reach there, but that does not happen. Initial air tickets, accommodation advance, you have to take care of that. So once you come here, you'll be given the initial installation charges. You'll be given half of your air travel expense, and you'll also be given a monthly subsistence cost. So that's fine. But initially, you have to take care of your own expenses. But I think that's manageable.
And do you have to show any bills to get your money, or is
No.
basically given at one pot?
You don't have to show any bills, and you get your insurance well in advance so that you can use that insurance to apply for your visa and everything. So they take care of that also.
And coming to the teaching aspects, how different it is between your home country and now where you're studying?
Well, it's very different, I would say. Back in India, for me at least, I was more accustomed to professors telling us this is what is to study and this is what I'll ask in exam and this is how we do it and blah blah blah. But here it's more like this is the whole deal. This is the book. You read how much ever you want, and then we'll see later in exams. So that's very different from that was very different from me. And initially, we were given assignments and small projects, and it can get a bit overwhelming initially. But I think you need to have an open mind. Try to work hard a little bit initially. Have a good support system of your classmates and your friends. But after that, things are pretty smooth. It's not exactly like India, but it's the same case with everybody else. All the other students feel that it's different from their country because, of course, it's a new place, different type of education system and all that. But the only thing I think it's really good that they teach in this way because that way you will understand what you're genuinely interested in. Like, you might not really like the subject, but you might like a part of it, and that will help your future in some way or the other. So that's a good thing. That's how they do it. They give a lot of assignments, so you get hands-on practical experience as well. But yeah, this is one of the main difference from India to there. And I think just having an open mind that okay, I will learn, I'll go slow, but I'll do it is more than enough for you to pass through it. It's fine.
And my final question to you would be with regards to the intercultural exchange, because you are studying with so many international students in one classroom, and also you're away from your home. So how all this plays out in an Erasmus Mundus study?
Okay. Well, away from home is fine. It's just that the distance has increased now. But initially, I was a bit skeptical. I was like, there's no one, and well, there are a few Indians, but I was like, I don't know if others will, if I would like the other people or not. But then once you meet them, you realize everybody is thinking the same thing. They are also a bit skeptical about how the other students are going to be. But after you meet continuously, go for some classes, you will realize nobody understands a particular subject or everybody hates a common professor. So you will all bond on that common thing, and but gradually it just keeps getting better. Like even though I've been here for a very short time, I've still learned a lot in terms of culture and food and just basic differences, which is like so trivial, but it's so different from us. It's a great experience altogether. Yeah, like I wouldn't trade it for anything else.
And what would be your final message to the prospective students, especially from the engineering background? What is your message with regards to applying for Erasmus Mundus scholarship?
If you want to come for September 2021, don't decide in August 2021 that you want to go. Decide well in advance. Have a good plan. Keep time for research. Like decide which course, which college you want to go for, and have a good plan. I think that's more than enough for you to get through any course for that matter. Other things would be in terms of your SOP and CV. Try not to write what is written in your CV in long sentences in your SOP. Like link it in some way to what your course requires. It could be like if you have done something different, just try to link it to what the course is actually expecting from you. And don't make it very redundant. Don't beat around the bush and try to make fancy sentences with complicated words. Because it might look nice, but if you're not able to drive your point across, it doesn't help. So just try to keep it precise and clean. I mean, initially I was writing really complicated sentences, and my friends, like whenever I would give it for a peer review, they'll be like, "What are you trying to say through this sentence?" So I'm like, okay, so just make it clean and simple, and that is more than enough. And yeah, be positive, and you'll get through.
As Sandhita pointed out, grades are important, but they're not the most critical element to win the prestigious scholarship. So what matters is your overall profile. So you need to ensure every aspect which is expected by the consortium, you really make an equal and hard work, because even if you miss out on one of the components, you might lose out. So I hope all these videos have been really helpful and you're taking all the points and you're working hard to make your own application into a successful journey. So meanwhile, do not forget to like, share, and most importantly, consider subscribing. And meanwhile, do comment below if you have any questions. Do reach out. Very happy to help you out. The next video will be on a successful journey with regards to social sciences and humanities. So until then, stay tuned and take care of yourself. Ciao.